Hey, everybody. Welcome to OP2.Earth. I'm Michael Vincent. This is episode number 3. I'm joined by Emma Whiteman. Emma, how are you doing today? Hey, third episode. It feels like our 100th one, doesn't it, though?
It really does. Yeah, we're slowly making progress here, but
Yeah. I mean, most people think, wow, 100, it seems like the third one. It seems like our 100th one because we've had a tough go of it, I guess, just with scheduling and so on and so forth. But we do manage to have a great guest with us. Can you guess who it is?
oh yeah, we have Paulina here from Read to the X today. It's going to be awesome.
Paula Quintana, and you and I have been doing some work, which we'll reveal at a little later date when it's appropriate over the last couple of weeks. But I'm glad to finally meet you and talk to you because I've heard so much over the last year because we have mutual friends in South Africa and mutual aspirations for what we're trying to do in this world. But hey, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm calling in from Los Angeles here. We're basically 5 minutes from Griffith Park, which is like our central park in LA, one of our few green spaces. But yeah, happy to be here.
So read to the X is how you say it. And I can see over your left-hand shoulder the name of the company, which is also, that's the official name, right? And logo is like that. You're like the company formerly known as Prince type of thing. You're like a symbol, but
exactly. I'm a symbol. But
you're an equation, actually, right?
Exactly. So when I first started, I wanted to name the company something that had some kind of recycling roots. And having grown up in LA, we all grew up, and I think we're all of the same age. Like I've been hearing reduce, reuse, recycle since I was like 10. And I wanted something a little bit more powerful in a sense. I didn't think that those, that mantra has been around for a long time. And it was, I feel like nothing's really happened. So I wanted it to expand with, when you think about read to the X, it's really about, read the prefix meaning again and using it to the X power. However, it can be infinite, it can be finite, whatever. But I felt
so reduce. So further than reduce, reuse, recycle, it's rethink, reimagine, repurpose, re-intentionalize, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, even like the non-traditional, like revolution still starts with re, but doesn't have that same kind of prefix. But it's all those words that we actually have to use to think about how we're going to conquer the plastic pollution that is inflicting our planet. So yeah, rethink, reimagine, repurpose, revisit, it's like kind of endless. So I kind of wanted to go beyond that because beyond the reduce, reuse, recycle, just because we need to do something else. That's like more of a call to action. So that's where the name came from. At first I was like, oh yeah, read to the third, for the reduce, reuse, recycle. And I'm like, that's not enough. We need to do something more.
Yeah, because somebody might just go recubed. If you put a 3 there, right? Some idiot like me would just go recubed. Yeah, I get it.
I spent a lot of time as studying. I have a major in painting and a minor in biology, so I spent a lot of time in math class. So it really comes from there.
Now I saw that, and Emma, you're marine environmentalist, right?
Yeah, I'm marine environmental science, but it's interesting. I actually had an art minor as well. So I guess you kind of need that in the sciences.
Well, hey, so I've got an art minor myself, not from a college, but both of my parents were professional artists.
So there you go.
Watercolors.
That's what I
went to UCLA, and I got to say that the art program at UCLA was really about problem solving, really, and I feel like it's kind of translated into kind of everything I've done, and this being like the biggest problem that I've wanted to solve.
Hold on a second. Why do you say that? Explain that quickly. Art is problem solving. That's an interesting concept to me.
So UCLA is a very conceptual school, and so it's artwork based on concepts. So if you think of, I'm going to throw out some names: John Baldessari, Charles Ray. These are kind of conceptual artists. It's not about the execute. Well, it is about the execution, but it's not about the final product. It's about like steps taken to get there. And having gone to this conceptual school, it's all based on, kind of having bulletproof idea of what you want to represent if it's visual. So, that's all about problem solving. How does this look? What gesture? Even if you're drawing and painting, like what gestures mean? Like if you're doing art installation, like what does it mean the minute you step into a room? Like, so it's all kind of like problem solving on making your idea that you have be kind of represented in a way that people will understand.
I got you. So it's almost like engineering. It's almost like an engineering process towards the.
It was a really intense program.
It's really interesting to me because I don't know how you feel about it, Emma, but it's like when we talk about recycling, repurpose, reuse, recycle, and so on and so forth. Just before we get into to the X in your journey, is people. Sometimes we go so hard thinking of trying so hard to solve a problem and moving that forward that we forget to look back and find the steps that we screwed up to get to this problem. And maybe if we go back and change one of those 2 or 3 steps, it changes everything, right? Maybe the real solution is so simple. It's just hammer and chisel and not really lasers and fusion and all this other kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think people try so hard to be so fancy, and sometimes the answer's been sitting right in front of us for a long time, and we just need to like look back and find it,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Paula, I was looking at your background a little bit. Give us a little bit of your background, and then let's talk about why Re to the X and what you guys are doing there.
All right. Well, I came to LA via Amnesty International through the letter writing campaign. There was what we Chileans like to call the original 9/11. There was a coup after a democratically elected socialist president was elected in Chile. So my dad is a physician. My mom is an occupational therapist, and they were both pretty active in the Socialist Party. And my dad was a big believer in socialized medicine. So after this coup, a dictator came into power, Pinochet, and my dad was incarcerated and whatnot. And through the letter writing campaign of Amnesty International, we had the choice between Vancouver, Paris, and Los Angeles. And both of my parents being in the medical field could pretty much, my dad had to go through another recertification test, which he passed. But my mom could pretty much land in Los Angeles, and she went to go work at White Memorial Hospital, which is in Boyle Heights. So I grew up in LA. I went to school in LA. I did a little bit of a stint in New York and realized I'm a West Coast girl.
Yeah. You ever go, man, I wish they took us to Paris instead.
My mom was a Methodist. I mean, maybe, but my mom's French was terrible. My mom went to a Methodist school in Santiago, so her English was pretty good.
Gotcha.
So gotcha. And plus, as a doctor and an occupational therapist, there was definitely work here for them in the Spanish speaking community.
Very cool. So Emma, just jump in and ignore me and ask her a question whenever you want to. There's no structure to this whatsoever. I'm just interested in hell.
No, it's so interesting. I'm just listening.
I know.
It's like such a crazy thing where you came from these I guess it's not crazy to think about, but you came from doctors who think about everything very structured, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor. I wouldn't know, I guess. And then to turn something into using that structured thinking, but then also being able to be creative with it. It's really beautiful, and it's cool to hear the background and how it all came to be. It's all important. So
it really is. So what was the point in your life where you said, you know what, Re to the X? Was there something that happened, or was it just, I need to do something?
Yeah. Well, I think growing up in LA, you kind of are always, you grew up with the environment. We have hiking, we have skiing, we have the ocean. So you always kind of grew up with, first of all, you're always outside. And, it was kind of, you're always an environmentalist. I, along with 2 other girls in high school, we started HOPE, which is Healing Our Planet Earth, our first.
Wow.
During the 80s,
really?
I feel like we were ahead of our
that's not cool. No, that's not cool at all.
So,
should have been smoking pot and surfing is what you're supposed to do.
There's a lot of that too, but
okay, all right.
I kind of grew up as an environmentalist. I did design children's clothing for about 13 years. So, my product is a hanger, and it comes from after I was done just making kids look cute, which, it was quite successful at. I kind of wanted to do something that with a little bit, more of like a social impact. And, you know, my stepson Garrett was like, "You got to check out this company called Bureo," and they were the first company to do recycling fishing nets off the coast of Chile. They now
Oh,
have
okay. All right, cool.
they now have a nice grant from Patagonia. And I was like, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to do something cool like that. But what do I know? I know kids clothing, but there's no way I want to do that again. It's a really fashion is a really difficult sector. And
Yeah.
I know hangers. I used to send my kids' clothes to stores on a plastic hanger that probably had a lifespan of just the 2 weeks it took to get to the store.
Right.
So
They're almost like a single-use plastic, right?
they are,
especially the ones that hold new clothes in the store. Like some of these ones you can get are a little better, but really not so. And you get these in the store and they're thin and they just break as soon as you get them home. I mean,
and then
Yeah,
it really is.
they're built to be lost and they're cheap. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there is an intermediate hanger though. That's what people don't seem to get, is that from your warehouse where you have your stock, and in order to send it to big box stores, it goes on even a cheaper hanger that only has the lifespan from your warehouse to the store. And then
So that's truly just a transportation use
hanger.
No kidding. I had no clue. Wow.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
That's a lot of waste, man. That's a lot of waste.
So when, I was like, wow, I want to use recycled plastic for something. I was like, wow, that's all I remember thinking. I used to I felt so terrible using these hangers that I used to drape my clothing in like bio bags, those kind of like compostable green bags. Fashion does have a lot of, single use everything.
Well, yeah, fashion has come under the gun in recent years for being a large polluter of the planet in many, many ways. And one of them is just fast fashion, I guess. What's in, because the whole industry money wise is kind of built on this spring's fashion's only good for this spring and it's gone.
Yeah.
And
I think
you don't wear it next spring. Right?
I think a lot of what I was concerned about is like the inclusion of plastic in a lot of our clothes. Like in my thesis research, a lot of the plastics that I was finding were fibers that we were able to trace back and say, oh, these were coming from laundry wastewater that got flushed down the drain and into the ocean. So that's like all of those polyesters and all these things that kind of rose to fame. They last a lot longer, but they're continually shedding plastic. So I think just to the point is that fashion in general is hard to get away from some of these environmentally unfriendly practices. So it's cool.
Our gray water is really carrying microplastics out into the gotcha. Mm-hmm. But okay, so read to the X. I don't know that we clearly explained what are you making your hangers out of? That's so awesome. Why am I buying these things? Is it plutonium or what?
It's 100% recycled ocean and ocean bound plastic. So it's no virgin plastic whatsoever. Ocean plastic obviously comes from the ocean, and then ocean bound is being able to collect plastic 25 meters or near a water source, a river. So
is it meters or kilometers?
I think it's 25 meters.
Yeah, it might be meters. I can't remember, but yeah, there's certification for that type of stuff, right? That you can certify whether it's estuary, water, river, ocean bound, land lot, or whatever it happens to be. That's really cool.
Consumer.
Are there different levels as well of the ocean bound plastic? Or is it all just ocean bound if it's in, I thought there was a certain level, like it's ocean bound if it's within 25 and it's ocean bound B if it's within 70 or something like that. I could be wrong.
I think I believe what we have is the ocean bound, because I know one of these micro recycling.
You do. I know you do. I know that you do.
Is off of
because it says there's beach, there's ocean, there's beach, there's estuary, and there's ocean bound. Because ocean bound, like technically here, and not technically, this is the way it works. If you're like if you're within 25 meters of the Tennessee River, that's ocean-bound plastic, because the Tennessee River goes into the Mississippi and then out into the ocean. So if there's a direct water source into the ocean, it's considered ocean-bound.
Bound, yeah.
That's the way I understand. Now, that may not be 100%. That's the way
That's
I
how
understand.
I understand it too. So
Yeah. That's really cool. So it's 100% out of that, but you're still getting cool colors and stuff. And I've got pictures of the stuff that I'll throw up for the people, and a link to read to the X that I'll throw up at the end of this as well. So, yeah, it's really cool. So are you startup? You've been doing this for 100 years, or how long? What's the process?
We kind of launched, with my stepson, who's now 26, he's like, oh, you got to do Kickstarter. So we did a Kickstarter, which, as somebody who's always done trade shows, was a real lesson in a lot. We started April. We were supposed to launch April 2020, but obviously COVID put a botch to that. So we launched April 2021, even under COVID. But, we did our first trade show, which I consider our official launch last year at New York Now in August of 2021. So
yeah, you won an award there, did you? You won an award there, did you not?
I did. I won the Sustainable Award from the International House and Design Association.
Congrats. That's awesome.
That was really great.
Yeah.
We did a trade show called the Inspired Home in March. And then we were nominated, which was fantastic, for a GIA award, which is a global innovation award in sustainability. So that it's been really, the timing has been really great, in the sense of, like, people are finally, their ears are open, their minds are open to really kind of understanding the importance of what we're doing, and the impact that companies have on the planet. So
have you had a lot of positive feedback for RE2X? Yeah. Read to the X. Sorry.
It's okay. I know, it's been really unique, but a curse at the same time. The name.
Yeah. I kind of love it.
You don't. Once you get it, you don't forget it. Once you get it, you don't forget it.
Read to the X. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So have you had a lot of positive feedback from Read to the X?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've had at this Inspired Home, which is basically a home goods show in Chicago. It's an international. I had like 7 different countries come up to me and wanting container prices. We've kind of had one that's kind of pulled through. We can get into this later, but the price point for recycled plastic is still kind of high. So there's that to deal with. But, I also actually even had other hanger manufacturers come to my booth and say, wow, we're the bad people here. We love what you're doing, So the response has been pretty amazing. We will be on a segment on Good Morning America in August, which has been really exciting. So, it's kind of like,
that's coming up in August.
Yeah, that's up in August. Yeah.
Sweet.
So, the response has been great, because I think people's, have finally kind of come around to realizing that, wow, we need actually to do something. And is such a kind of an item that everybody needs, that it's an accessible item. People are constantly needing hangers.
And it's not something you think about necessarily as being a single-use plastic, but like in a lot of ways it is. Like, I would always just naturally reach for it, even though I try to avoid plastic. So if I knew that my plastic hanger was coming from a source that I was actually preventing plastic from going in the ocean, it would be so much better to be okay with using them all the time,
Exactly. And, I don't know, I can't imagine. I would think that everybody here at one point in their life has broken a plastic hanger.
Yes.
Right? Like, we all
absolutely.
have. So, the design of the hanger is designed never to occupy space in a landfill. It's just beefier. It's never going to break. Like, we've made it so it doesn't break. And if it does break, and I haven't had, anybody said, call me or email me saying that they're hangers, but we will take it back and we will regrind it, and we can make something else out of it again. So,
the full circular economy. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it goes back to the circular economy that we were talking about before. I mean, in theory, you're making a product that eventually you won't have to sell anymore. But that's the goal, right? Is you sell them to everyone and then you never have to sell another one.
The day you put me out of business will be the happiest day of my life.
No, because you'll do something else. What are the other plans? You just going to do hangers, or what's on the shelf?
I don't want it to be known as a hanger company, but right now we're in the works of creating something totally different. So, I do want, I'm working on coming out with like a hotel version of the hanger, because I do think, hotel.
Yeah, like the little one's just a little ball head. So if you steal it, it's worthless anyways.
I'm going to propose to the hotels that, let people take them, So,
yeah.
But I don't want to be known as a hanger company. I want to do other things. I'm still, I feel like a designer at heart. So, the hanger was something that I knew could be well received, and who doesn't need a hanger? So I knew that I wanted to create something that also didn't, Emma, like you said, you wash it and you release microplastics. Like, it's really about kind of quarantining this plastic in your closet, and it's going to be there for it's not going to go anywhere else besides your closet. So the idea of the next product has to be just as forever as the hanger. It can't, we really want to be in the business of quarantining plastic, not kind of constantly reusing this plastic, but just creating a product that you don't have to ever replace again.
And if you have a product that checks off a couple of boxes, and then you can hold on to that, it's a quality thing over just quantity of all these tiny little hangers all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, because then you're wasting, and because if you do that, you reduce carbon footprints and all kinds of stuff. You and even financially, it's a burden. I mean, you look at different things, just in the financial world, contracts that are executed completely by both parties, and both parties agree. The time from the moment that contract has been completed successfully and both agree to the time the money actually exchange hands is billions of dollars wasted a year in time, because it's just sitting there. If you could just speed up that process, you have all this extra capital that you can solve things like hunger and all this other kind of stuff with, just all this money that's just tied up in time because of these things. And what you're doing there, as long as if you're not constantly, even if I can keep these pens, recycle them, and they never go back in the environment, the energy wasted in recycling them constantly is something that you're also trying to
but then also, like,
and that makes total sense.
Yeah, to your point, also like shipping containers and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're in logistics, but you are shipping out probably pallets and pallets and pallets of these tiny hangers before they even get to the clothes to be even shipped to the stores. Like, if you are having one quality product that gets shipped one time to one place and it quarantines there, like you were saying, that is a way to not only reduce plastic use, but I would argue that you're also reducing the carbon footprint of your closet, of yourself, of your lifestyle, and of the world in general. I mean, and freeing up some space on some of these.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely
agree.
Go ahead.
I just think that's a concept that I wish, I maybe was told a little bit, like, was kind of more ingrained when I was younger. I feel like, between like my college years were, I was still an activist, but like, you still aren't really realizing your footprint along certain choices you make. Right. So
Sure.
I love the fact that we are now discussing all these steps that entail, what it means to actually produce something.
Yeah. It's not just like Amazon adds a cart. Okay, it's here. Like, there's a lot of background stuff that goes into getting that product actually to you that you would never realize.
Right.
Yeah. So now that you're doing this, and you said you were an activist, you really, as far back as you can remember. Let's just say that. So you've been, but now that you've gotten into this, and you're doing Read to the X, and you're really going to, and Read to X is a perfect name because you can expand into auto parts if you wanted to, and it totally fit into your name, which is actually brilliant, and maybe it's intentionally brilliant or accidental. Either way, it's brilliant. But so do you find yourself more consciously aware of what you're doing and your footprint now as you've gotten into Re to the X than you were before, and kind of go, oh, wait a minute, I've been an idiot my whole life. I'm in transportation and I preach, listen, those trucks going down the road, they're 80,000 pounds. They cannot stop when you cut them off and do this type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then I find myself driving like a complete idiot around these trucks. And I have to remind myself, wait a minute, dude, you're even in this business and you're doing this, right? But have you become more aware of the environment and what you're doing there and found some issues that you yourself still need to?
Yes, for sure. For sure. I mean, I do want to say that I've always gardened, I've always composted, I've always, have done certain things that have limited my carbon footprint. But, going and starting a new company based in recycled plastic, which what did I know? You talk to me about, silhouettes and patterns. I'm like, I'm your gal, deep diving into recycled plastic, has been definitely a learning curve. And I
Right.
kind of sometimes have to stop myself from not going down the whole, sorry, I was about to cuss, like the, oh my goodness, wait, I can probably go home and let me just keep all this trash and, go home and wash it and recycle it. There's this anxiety. I think there's actually now a term for it, like climate anxiety, where you're like, what can I do? And I read this really great quote of, that was like, we don't need, 100 people doing zero waste,
perfectly
flawlessly. We need like 1 million people doing it, like with flaws, right? So
yeah, that makes sense.
If you know what I'm saying, like I have to sometimes kind of like step back a little bit and be like, okay, Paula, you can't save every single piece of plastic, or
compassion. I mean, you're doing everything that you can to make a difference, and that's way more than a lot of people are doing, and you can't solve it all on your own. Like, it's important to do what you can, but at a certain point, like, the eco anxiety can take you over. Like, you really need to just be like, okay, I'm doing the best that I can, and that's okay. It doesn't always have to be 0 or 100. It can be somewhere in the middle, and you can be okay with that. Yeah.
But you know what? It's one of those things that is, you don't really have to shame and blame people. It's something that people pick up on if you lead by example. That I've really noticed. Consumers buy these. We've been talking a lot about retail industry and inside the stores and in between DCs and stuff. But to be specific, your hangers are for people to buy. These are retail.
Correct.
They buy them to use in their home, right? These are not going into businesses specifically, right?
Correct. And I would like to plug this one website that I do sell on, which is called Earth Hero, and
I love Earth Hero.
I love Earth Hero.
Good stuff on there.
They do. And you know what? To be able to sell on Earth Hero is quite a vetting process. So, you at least that the products that are being sold there have actually been vetted, and, you have to meet certain requirements. So, you can find the hangers.
I haven't been there. Earthhero.com, is that what it is?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. All right. 2 H's in the middle.
Correct.
So real quick, I was exploring your website a little bit earlier, and I noticed that you support a lot of like women and minority owned places where you get your hangers made. I don't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, but I noticed like the Women of Waste and all that kind of cool stuff. If you wanted to.
Yes. I feel like, my grandmother was a social worker, and my mom landed in LA and went straight to work. So I'm a big lover of, females, really kind of leading the way in things. And I will go out of my way to support females and anytime possible. When I found Ocean Plastic Technologies in South Africa, one of the kind of highlights was like the amount of women that are employed, and the ones that kind of, women have always had a history of organizing and, protecting their community. So, when, Women on Waste, like the 2 women from Willowfontaine and who run the micro recycling plants there, they have a network, and lo and behold, the network tends to be very female based. So, I'm always down to support. I feel like my Instagram account has always like highlighted minority women doing amazing things to like really kind of be protective of their community. So, I always want to kind of shout out to, females kind of like under kind of really kind of
So
more not aggressive circumstances, but when you think about it, it's like communities that are disadvantaged always, women are always the ones there kind of like trying to pick the community up. So anytime I get to support that, I'm all about it. My mom belonged to this amazing group called Memsh. And it was women in LA who were selling arpilleras, which were these beautiful tapestries to support women in Chile that were living under the dictatorship. So, I come from like a really kind of like feminist, pro-woman background. So it's just kind of like in my nature. That's what I love. And that's, we got to support each other.
It's excellent stuff because those women on waste, they're in Willa Fontaine. So they're zero money down entrepreneurs that OPT put in business, right? And so that's where your raw material for your hangers are coming from.
Exactly.
And I know that right now there's a connection difficulty, but your products, and as people buy your products, the hangers right now specifically, obviously, but as they buy your products, they're helping to do that, and they can see that impact on your website, right? I know the QR code isn't quite working right this second, but it will be, because I know there's a slight technical difficulties there, but it's live measuring the impact on the lives, right?
Impact on the lives, and we're also highlighting the collectors. We're also highlighting the operators of the microrecycling plants. Yeah,
it's beautiful. I mean, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about in this news article was just that you not being sustainable isn't a burden, it's a must in these days, right? But one of those things that really brings in that where they talk about where the studies show that 74% of the people will spend more money knowing that the company that they're buying from is sustainable or supporting underserved communities, whatever it happens to be, right? Even employees are more satisfied. You can attract better talent if your company's doing that stuff, but you have to be able to prove it. Right. You can't just talk about and be greenwashing like you see in certain ways. And you guys have the proof, and you not only just talk the talk, you're walking the walk. It's actually right there.
Right. And, honestly, like when I found OPT, Ocean Plastic Technologies, like every kind of step of the way as far as ethos was kind of like right on the money. When Oliver was like, hey, can we have, a single moms group do your packaging? I'm like, absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, when somebody orders something, it'll say like, yes, the packaging might not be perfect, but it's supporting a group of women who are trying to do something. And that's what makes it perfect. So like, if you can get over this whole idea of things being perfect and like, kind of robotic, like there are lives being impacted.
And they know that within 3 seconds of you walking down the soda pop aisle or whatever you want to call it, you've made your choice. Whether you know it or not, it's already done because of the packaging that is on there. And they know this. And so when you, as I like to say, when you live with intention, you overcome those influences and you make the right choice, like re to the X over some shiny chrome looking hangers that are going to look really cool in your brand new designer walk-in closet with mirrors and lights and all other kind of stuff, right? That's
right. But what's great is that I have a couple. Because I was in the arts, like I do have like 3 or 4 designer friends, and they're remodeling multi-million-dollar homes and putting these hangers in them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like it's really about like they see the value in the hanger, on a global level, and not so much like, oh, the guy wants silver chromy, beautiful, slick, and whatever. So there are people pushing the hanger to be, like, let's start thinking a little bit more about substance instead of just like, I mean, they're good looking hangers too, so don't get me wrong, but like, it's about like what else besides them being good looking, what else do they do? So
yeah, because also
they-
I was just thinking like with hangers, like no one theoretically will see them. Like you can design it in a way, or like you have your clothes on it because they're your clothes. Like they're just for you. They're not for anybody else. So why not live with intention and get one that's supporting so many people's lives? Like when it's not going to really at the end of the day make a difference to you, but it makes a difference to so many other people, you know?
You know what, Emma? To that point, it's probably the first hanger you'll ever pull out during a dinner party and say, "Check this out."
I probably would, yeah.
Yeah, but there is something to that feeling when you get, you get dressed in the morning, you open up your closet, you're like, okay, right, I'm actually, I'm doing something. Like even if it's just putting where your purchasing dollars are, like you're actively doing something, even from the beginning when you wake up in the morning and you go to your closet. So, and it's so subtle, right? It's so subtle, but you can feel good that you are supporting something good.
But, hey, I was going to get into some news today, but this was much more interesting, so we just stayed on this right here. So we'll save that for another time, because this was actually very, very, this was awesome. I love the discussion. We have to have you on again sometime though, Paulina, because I want to hear next steps with that, and I know there's some other stuff that you're working on, because you and I are working on them together. So we'll talk about those at another time. Those are pretty amazing things that will maybe even help solve some of that intermediary single-use designed hangers between DCs and stores, right? I think there's a possibility there. But anyways, so Paulina, how do people get in touch with you specifically and learn more about Re to the X and your awesomeness?
Well, they can go onto my website, which is Re to the X, and it's spelled out RETOTHEX.com. And that will give you a way to actually say it, Re to the X. And, I'm on Instagram too, which is re_2_the_X.
Two number or TO?
TO.
Okay.
Sweet.
TO.
Very cool. Very cool. Hey,